at the Smithsonian, he was a curator, and he wanted to put on this exhibit called Automation Madness, Boys and Their Toys. And he got George Lucas, he got R2-D2 and C-3PO, who were going to lead people through the museum, through the exhibit. And it was all set, and then he was called in by the director of the museum saying, you know, we can't do this, we've got a scheduling problem. And Dave would say, great, okay, I got my calendar. You get your calendar, and let's figure out the scheduling problem. He knew well that it wasn't a scheduling problem. But he was always calling people on any, you know, when they pretend that it was something other than what it was, or they'd give him an order and he'd say, look, I'm not a military man. I'm insubordinate doesn't mean anything to me. So talk to me. And people in authority and power don't like that very much.
I went down to the Smithsonian. I did an exhibit called Automation Madness, Boys and Their Toys. Great exhibit. It never was allowed to be mounted, and I was fired.
He was always calling people on any, you know, when they pretend that it was something other than what it was, or they'd give him an order and he'd say, look, I'm not a military man. I'm insubordinate doesn't mean anything to me. So talk to me. And people in authority and power don't like that very much. But Dave was genuinely, there was no hierarchy about him at all.
He suffered a lot. David suffered a lot from not being understood, especially in his professional environment, but also in the activist circles. He would go to meetings, he would go to these various organizations that fought various injustices, and he always felt not understood. He felt isolated by it. But on the other hand, we were really pleased that we'd found each other. So David once said to me, as part of these conversations, he said, you know, Denis, there's only two of us, but we've got them surrounded. And that was a way of saying, well, it'd be worse if we were alone. And even just one person can make a difference. Now that there are two of us, you know, that can really do things.
Let me just say that after 6 years of litigation there, 4 years of litigation there, I'm still happy-go-lucky. Can't you tell?
Big business, heavy science, and the campus connection. Congress held hearings today looking into growing ties between scientific researchers on campus and corporate sponsors. Whether this is good business and good science or a conflict of interest promoting private profit over the public good.
Over the last 2 decades, the upper managements of academia and corporate America have become inextricably bound through a thickening web of interlocking directorates. Corporate executives have long dominated university boards. Now top academic administrators routinely sit on Fortune 500 boards, sometimes earning more in fees and retainers associated from these directorships than they do from their academic positions. In addition to serious conflicts of interest, this network of relationships generates a corporate ethos and managerialist regime in academia, which is indistinguishable from that of private industry. Most important, it encourages academic administrators to view higher education in much the same way as do their boardroom brethren, namely as a site of commodity production and accumulation.
It's a two-way process. It's not simply that corporations have through a variety of means, gained an ability to shape what kinds of programs are started in universities, what kind of research is done, which they have in not just direct ways, but through the assistance of government. There's also the university itself reaching out in a way to attract corporate clients and to get corporate money.
Is the university an economic tool or something more?
The chief cost is to the public, which depends upon the universities for objective, disinterested study and analysis of their society. This is what is being lost.
Kind of end line of corporatization, which is when the university begins to take on the role of being a corporation that becomes the kind of the economic center of activity, which, you know, like it means it's no longer simply or even maybe hardly at all an educational institution, it's a business institution.
I've documented the ways in which the pinstripe pirates of corporate America, pinstripe because of what they wear, pirates because they are essentially looting public resources, how the pinstripe pirates, in league with their clones within the universities, have appropriated our taxpayer-created academic resources and transformed the universities into their own private preserves.
What we're talking about with partnerships is we're talking about contractual relations between private companies and public institutions. Going back to 1991, when another secret thing was foisted on the Canadian public, namely the change in the Patent Act in 1991. It was done behind closed doors. One of the biggest giveaways in Canadian history took place almost unnoticed. The same thing had happened 10 years earlier in the United States, whereby the universities automatically owned the patents on federally funded research. And it's now the key thing, which I have to keep coming back to. It's public goods, it's public institutions, but if you or Judy or I go to the university and say, I'd like to see that contract between Merck, Frost, and UBC, I'd like to see that contract, they'll say, you can't see that contract because it's proprietary. So there's no public disclosure. The media, and I've been working on this for 15 years in the state, the media is unable to even see the contract. So all we've got to go on is trust, honesty of individuals, and that isn't the basis of democracy. We need review, scrutiny, surveillance, vigilance, accountability.
It's the story of why corporatization has proceeded. How did we get to where we are today, to the extent to our universities are corporatized? I think it is because of the succession of adjustments to pressures, adjustments to opportunities, attractive funding opportunities, research opportunities, that people were willing to say, oh, well, you know, maybe we can let go of the way we've always done this, or maybe we can let our research be sort of dictated to a little bit. You know, all of those kinds of things that become kind of compromises in order to get the benefits, where then you buy into a whole set of change in social relations around academic work that results in a fundamental transformation of what the university is about.